All right, guys. So we are going to be doing the global PVE and PvP launch tier list. I'll be combining this into one because I just don't have enough like video slots to make two separate ones, especially considering I'm doing a JP tier list probably tomorrow for season 6. And we are on Pride Win this time for the tier list because I have actually helped out with the tier list. Me and Antelar sat in a call for a bit more than an hour, making both the global and JP tier list given our knowledge on the game. He stopped playing in about season 4 or 5, but he did play, no, season 5. But he did play Canada launch, so he's already played this game twice. I've played this game twice. We are knowledgeable on this game, and of course, Antelar does all the other games too, so he is very knowledgeable in terms of just how games work and stuff. Now, I mainly just helped out with more of the JP units, and then we kind of improvised together for a lot of the global tier list. This tier list is going to be going up to Lich, or just the Midnight Sun squad, so Lich, Raya, Fauna, and Veto, because we don't fully know who's going to be on launch, but our guess is that it's going to be those four. If not, they're going to come 2 weeks after, and this is how the tier list would look like 2 weeks later, so I'd say it's just a good place to like end, being those four. There are a couple new things. First of all, obviously, because it's split up into four, we've got global PvE, global PvP, JP PvE, and JP PvP. Now, one thing that we've decided to add is that there's this little mark, is that it's for people units who are able to be very good, very strong against bosses in PvE. So basically, single target, right? Normal PvE content is what we consider farming. So all the normal general stages like gear, XP, talents, and then the gear level up. And then I guess slightly Hall of Illusions in the earlier stages is what normal PvE is, where it's basically how quick can you beat a stage, how effective are you to beat a stage. But then the boss mark is specifically for single target PvE content, so bosses, limited, so basically raids, guild boss, and then later stages of Hall of Illusions. Those are the three things that we count as bosses. Of course, there's the season marker, but that's not really that important. So the global tier list will be considered mainly at 0 dupes. That's just how it's going to be. And yeah, I mean, it goes up to Lich, Raya, Fauna, and Veto. So that's going to be the tier list. I'm going to do the JP one probably tomorrow, but they have to update some tiers, which is why, because we obviously, when we're doing this, we do it on a spreadsheet, so we don't fully see if we're putting someone at A who it compares to in that rank. So we have to like kind of rechange some certain things, and Antelar is going to make that go live tomorrow morning. So thank you to Antelar, thank you to Pridewin. Go check out the site. They also updated all the characters to season 6. So we got all the way up to Fauna and Witch Queen, which is very huge. We got a lot of characters, and of course they have a special little thing where you could directly compare stats, so you see how good Fauna is, and in terms of speed, if you want to see just DPSs, you could see that Fauna and Langrid, like these guys are the 5 quickest DPSs. So little things like that, you're able to tell. Plus Fauna, they have a lot of defense. Anyway, let's start with the global PvE tier list and go to global PvP. This is the S plus rankings. For red, we've got Charlotte and Yami. These are both two incredibly good units for grinding for different reasons. Charlotte, the main reason is that she has a markability and because of the debuffs she applies, mainly on the one skill. So if we check it out, her skill 2 is the main cake of her kit in that it applies defense reduction with a mark. Now this mark allows the person who kills the person with the mark to get an extra turn. So if you kill someone and they have a mark, that person gets an extra turn, and each person you kill with a mark gives the person who killed them an extra turn, which is really good for PvE, but also it's because it's on this skill and it's AoE, and at level 4, when you level it up to level 4, the skill, it's a 100% chance for enemies to get a mark. And this is going to allow you to get so many turns, and it's going to make gameplay much quicker. So she is definitely one of the best units because it allows single target red DPSs to go crazy, and then obviously Yami also, because Yami, what he has is a what's it called, let me not do that. He has a AoE skill 1, which is a very good thing to have because you could continuously spam it, and it's just really nice. Now, even for bosses, he's very good because he does extra damage to bosses, but his main thing is obviously in just mono red teams against green teams. That's just how it is. So red Yami is very good. Now green doesn't really have anyone that stands out as much. Red Yami for his skill 1 spamming, that does really good damage, and I would say for most times it does more than Raya, but I could be tripping. But Raya is very good in his own right, but it's also because Yami is just like that guy, and his damage for his skill 1 is what is mainly just highlighted for me. Now red Charlotte obviously just that crazy, but If we go to blue, it's mainly for the survivability, and they're just the most efficient. Lotus has its 2 AoE skills, so you're able to have an alt AoE and a skill 1 AoE, which is really good. Of course, he's not a DPS debuffer, but the debuffer part also is just better for him because of the fact that he slows them down, makes them take more damage, slows them down more and more and more and more, so applies a bunch of debuffs. And then Mars tanks everything, and you could obviously make everyone attack Mars. Soul could still work, but Mars is just a better version of Soul, so it's just really good. Mars is going to make sure to be able, he basically does keep your whole team alive. And it does seem to a certain extent there is a bit of a difference, or a bit of a extra, how do I explain this? More times than not, the enemies will target, the bots will target Mars, seemingly because he's a tank, but certain bots target because of different values, where in PvP usually a lot of bots will target the higher magic attack units or type advantage depending on which skill it is. If it's to apply a taunt, usually it's going to be the DPSs that get targeted. If it's to attack, usually it's going to be type advantage. So yeah, the bots do have certain criterias, and it does seem more often than not they're going to attack someone like Mars, and Mars is very tanky, and he has a good skill 1 where he could taunt plus increase his defense if he has a skill page, and his combo with Lotus allows them to excel. So it's just, these two are really good for launch PvE, and it's really good. These are like obviously the two that you're kind of aiming for at launch, so it makes sense why they're in S+. Now we've got S tier. These are our S tier units. For red, it's going to be Red Asta because obviously, even if he's single target, his ult allows him to get 2 turns in total. And if we count that he could usually be with Charlotte, and Charlotte is a free unit, everyone gets Charlotte. Because of that, it makes it so that Asta could just clear out everyone. His damage is by far like one of the best in the game. The only person who really passes him up is Kiato, but then you really check it out, and he has very good values. And he gives himself increased attack, increased damage a bunch of times, extra attack, then he gets increased damage to a boss. So for single target on bosses and in PvE, he's very good, given that he's a red unit and he could be paired up with Charlotte, and also just because he gets an extra turn on his ultimate if they're above a certain threshold of HP. Then Finral is just very nice to get everyone extra damage and make him go quicker, make them attack quicker, make him attack before the enemies attack again. So Finral on launch is pretty good, but he does fall off pretty quick in PvE. Just in terms of like the best teams, right? Now for green, it's funny because this is just like the main team you'd be using generally, but Rill could also be used. I think that's the one like tier placement that I'm gonna have to mention because he's a bit too low, let's say. Lich is really good. He has 2 AoEs considering that it's Lich and Raya, and it just makes it for a really good team clear sweep where you ult with Lich, then you combo with Raya, and then these two are going to be able to just go crazy, right? That's the thing. Now, Raya could be argued for S+ against bosses. I could 100% see that. It's just a little thing. Me and Atalar, I guess we just didn't really consider that, but he could, considering he's S+ on JP, PvP, PvE, you could consider him S+ here too, for sure, easily. But it doesn't really change much. I don't think for grinding he's that crazy, but against bosses he is definitely that crazy. These two together is basically the best team. Separately is when they don't go as well for PvE content. Now Mimosa could res and heals a bunch, gives increased defense buffs, so she's there. And then Rhodes has a barrier, has a increased defense, and that barrier is insane, by the way. It also stops stuns, which against bosses could be really good. But his barrier could be like 60k HP, which is like, you're basically doubling the amount of HP DPSs have for 2 turns, which is great. And then Fauna, let's move over to blue. Fauna's double AoE is just really good. The damage it pumps out is crazy. That's a 90% AoE and then a 120% AoE with increased all attack. So it goes really well. Plus her stats are very high. So Fauna is just really good for clearing AoE content. And then William, amazing supporter, gives damage reduction to keep the team alive. This is usually the team you'd end up using for the most part, these 4 for blue. It's funny because like it's mainly how it goes, except for the red. Like you'd probably, now you could use Finral, but I'd probably recommend like SR Mimosa over him. But Finral's just overall better, right? That's just how it goes. But yeah, these are like the top 12 PvE grinding units, and then we've got Raya, very good for bosses too, because of the fact that he could nuke with his ultimate. If we go to his ultimate, right, it's 15% increased damage dealt per buff, so you're able to nuke and just do like ballistic damage, right? Ballistic damage. So it's really crazy. So yeah, this is S plus and S. Let's start moving down to A tier. Now, in A tier, we've got, it's going to start going a bit more quickly. Red Asta is here because he has an AoE taunt, which makes him very good. And if you put him with someone with Incapacitate, he could have an AoE stun. Mimosa's heals are insanely good somehow for PvE. I've used it. I've used her on a team and it works. Noelle has barriers that make it very good. And I mean, it's nice. You could also, I'm pretty sure, what is it? I kind of forgot. But yeah, barrier here, single target. And then barrier with increased defense, which is it's a nice combo to have. Because you apply your barrier, then you also make it that you're most likely not going to push into the HP realm because of the fact that the defense is going to block a lot of damage. And Sally, amazing against bosses mainly, but I guess you can use it in grinding, but it's just against bosses, her buffs are insane, right? You buff a red unit, they get crit damage, increased all attack, increased magic attack, increased crit rate, and you extend buffs, which is like just so crazy, the amount of buffs she has. And Veto is just a decent tank that really won't die because of his lifesteal. So if you want to just put him there to tank up hits, just soak him up, it's great. Now, A tier, Nebra works very well. I thought they were on B tier, but never mind. Oh, what? I really did think that they were in B tier, but I guess they were moved up. All right. Anyway, Fuego has an AoE skill too that does pretty good damage, plus he has the burns. His damage is just fairly good, and it's mainly his AoE that just carries it. Then Nebra, good against bosses because of the debuff she has. So she has a reduced defense level 4, then she has an incapacitate level 4. If you pair these two together, what is that? Reduced defense by 70% and then incapacitate, increased damage taken by 60%. It's just two insane debuffs to have against boss units that you really, like, damn, bro. There's almost nothing better than her for debuffing bosses, which is great. Then Rill has his AoE stun, which could be good against grinding, and then also with that incapacitate and reduce defense. So it's just like he's an AoE version of Nebra, technically in a different way. But yeah, no, Rill is still pretty good. And surprisingly, like, his skill 1 does really disgusting damage, especially when you have this increased magic attack. Sometimes it just like you shoot and then they're dead. Now Vanessa is really good because of the fact that she is able to heal a bit, 100% chance to get this blessing of protection, and where you restore 8% of the HP, 8% of the of the damage you took. Wow, Jesus Christ. Anyway. Never mind. It's restore the HP by 8% of max HP. So you're getting a 8% HP heal, which is pretty good. If it's of Vanessa's max HP, this is like way better. But just in general, it's because of the total defense and where you could only block damage, which means you cannot get crit first of all, and it's taking up to 30% less damage because it's blocked instead of just a normal attack. Then this increases defense, and I mean, if there's on the off chance that this could maybe be useful, you remove DOTs, and with the skill page, you increase endurance. So yeah. But it's mainly total defense plus this mini healing that is both very good. And also, you could remove your own debuffs, which is probably one of the better SR ones. And she has 110 speed, which is going to be very good to apply these buffs before anyone else goes. So yeah, this makes up red and green. Now moving on to blue. Charmy has a pretty good heal that's based off of her magic attack that could heal. And then after, she has another heal with a chance to grant people an extra SP on the skill 2, which is very good. And then also with the skill page, you give them extra magic attack. So her buffs are actually pretty good, but it's also because of her healing that you're going to be using her in PvE, right? Same thing for Soul and Solid. They're both very good and are basically replacements for the main team, where Soul is going to be Mars's only replacement. She could do a single target taunt, another taunt here, and she could reduce magic attack, but mainly she's going to be soaking up damage. And then Solid has an AoE plus a main and adjacent, so 3 people, but then the AoE is going to do a lot. Main and adjacent can do a lot, and a single target is going to do a lot of damage. So he's a pretty good grinder. And just Blue Yami is very good, but you can't really consider him an S tier, right? He has a very good single target, but then it's like his AoE doesn't do like the craziest. But overall, his damage is pretty good. It's just Fauna's better, and you cannot consider Blue Yami on the S tier if Fauna is an S tier, right? But he's still very good. Like, A tier is all units that you're still able to run in PvE. But then B tier is when it gets a bit iffy. Leopold is able to be ran, but it's mainly, this was a point that Antelar decided to bring up that I agreed with. The main and adjacent is great because of the fact that there's only 3 enemies. But then you also got to consider it's the fact that if they hit the side unit, it's only hitting 2 units. If the bot decides to target the side unit, you're only hitting 2 units. But if they have to target the middle unit to be able to hit all three, but if not, this skill becomes kind of worthless. But his damage is overall like otherwise pretty good, and he has a lifesteal, which is why he's there. Teresa is a burn unit that has healing. Voltos just doesn't really do that well, but he has some support that could be good. Is okay, but you're not really going to use him over like Lich, Raya, or Fuego on launch. And he does have some debuffs, which could prove to be good. But I just don't see you replacing anyone for right? Like, he's definitely not better than Rill. Now, Ghosh is like not the unit you would want in like the main SR variants team, which is why he's in B tier. Same thing with Jack. Jack just single target. These are two single target guys. Now I do want to give a bit of showcase to Jack, just to kind of say how much I dislike his kit, because you get 10% increased crit damage for each buff, which is a mini version of Raya, because Raya it's increased damage, and crit damage just isn't that great because of the fact that it might not proc. And I just don't like the fact of that. But this at least does give you increased crit rate to hopefully get that crit. Because if you do get the crit, then obviously he's going to be doing pretty good damage. But there's just so many variables that can make it so you don't get the crit, right? Which does suck. Now, luck. AoEs. He has an AoE and then AoE here. Then he has a main and adjacent skill. So for grinding, he could be decent, but not that crazy. And Nozel, the thing is, he has attack lowering debuffs and not defense lowering debuffs. So he's not making you do more damage by lowering their defense. He's just making them do less damage, which isn't the craziest, and which is why he's in B tier. Then it just starts getting a bit iffy. But Magna ain't that good. Alokdor really ain't that good. Gift So he's just a support that's based on RNG, and he could be good against bosses. So like the point of him being high for bosses for sure. I'll probably bring that up to Antelar, but for PvE grinding, not that good. Heath could even be lower. So could Sure, like he could be in the D tier. And then rares aren't even worth mentioning. So that's it for the PvE tier list. If there's a couple changes I would make, the only changes would really be Gift So higher, Leopold maybe to A, could definitely be argued. And maybe Never to S and then Raya to S plus. But Raya, like in S, to me makes very good sense for now. Especially because Ray doesn't really need Raya. But in future bosses, it will be much more beneficial. But on launch, she isn't like a must need, where like having Charlotte in your team is gonna help you so much. And same thing with Red Yami. He's good in pretty much any PvE content. But yeah, he falls off quick. Like this guy, Red Yami, falls off quick. But then Lotus and Mars obviously are your go-to. So let me just take a quick pause and we're going to get to PvP. And we're back. As for PvP, obviously it's going to be for the direct meta at the time. So units over time will move up, move down, right? I think that Rill was better on JP launch because people were using Radis less and Radis stops stuns. So little things like that. That's just how I see it. Now, this is the main tier list. This is like the main units you're going to be seeing the most in PvP. And it's funny because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those units are units you could get on any banner or just essentially for free. And only 2 of them are limited. So I find that pretty cool. Let's start from S+, go obviously from left to right, how I did it for PvE. And yeah, so Red Asta basically could kill 2 people in 1 turn and is very good for that. Plus, because William is like prominent in the meta, he's going to be able to buff him up with his attack buff, right? The attack buff where Asta is completely attack. So William's going to greatly help Asta do even more damage because of the fact that Asta only has attack, and William buffs attack by a crazy margin. I think it's like what, 78%? 84%. So yeah, and then obviously he increases speed and stamina potentially. So he is an amazing combo plus Finral 2, great for speed, increases stamina, increases attack, increases crit rate. 4 amazing buffs. You can't go wrong with Finral. Then Mimosa, why she's scary is that you either have to target her or target someone else, but if you target her, you risk dying because of the fact that the enemy DPSs will be targeting you afterwards. But if you don't target her, she's gonna res the DPS and then they're gonna attack either way. So her res is very good for that. And her healing is also very good. Plus, she gives amazing buffs in terms of increased buff duration and defense increase plus damage resistance. Her buffs on her skill 2 are really good. And then her buff on the ult, which is the increased defense, is very good. And the resurrection obviously is just like wild, right? Now, Rhodes is going to be the most timeless unit, as you can see, still S plus on JP. In the fact that he has a barrier on his ultimate that is applied alongside a stun block for 2 turns, I believe. 2 turns, status ailment. I call it stun block, but it's called status ailment immunity for 2 turns. So yeah, it's really good. This barrier could go. I've on JP. I've got it up to 100k HP. And to note, most DPSs are around the range of 40 to 50k HP, and that 100k could be very much helped by if you add the increased defense he has on his skill 2. That increases everyone's defense. So this Rhodes is able to keep everyone alive for turns, right? And he stops stuns completely for 2 turns, which is great. Then Valtos, the best speed unit in the game. If we're comparing Finral to Valtos, turn 1, Valtos is better because he guarantees everyone at 100% stamina the minute he uses his ult. And getting to 100% stamina is when you're attacking, where Finral increasing speed does not directly increase stamina right away. So getting that stamina increase is great. Plus, he gives magic attack, but at the moment, there's not many magic attack DPSs. Like in the no, there's literally like no good ones. It really starts with Noel, then it goes to like Julius, and then it like spirals out of control. If we look at stats, magic attack, the good ones are like Fauna. The other Fauna, like I guess, is the only one you would see, but like Noel, Julius, Magna, Charmy, Fuego, and then I get, did I say Magna? I mean that it's those are all like the good units like in JP, and it definitely helped Valtos over time. His stonks did increase because of that magic attack increase. So yeah. Then going into blue, Lotus, it's just so stupid. It really is stupid, right? He lowers stamina, lowers speed, incapacitate, could taunt with Mars. These two together is like an insane combo. A lot of people who've played JP and Canada know, even if you played for just a week, you have seen these two together. He could also lower your attack, and just speed lowering is such a stupid ability. And he also removes buffs, so he's really good. Plus his speed was 107, so he attacks before DPSs most times. And Mars with Lotus, it's just too stupid because AoE combo, right? And it's going to put all attack lower, taunt also, and he has a stun. And if he's not with Lotus in a combo, he has an AoE stun on his combo. So what you could do, it's funny, these three like all, it's like one back to back. If you combo William with Mars, William has the highest speed in the game. And if you put the combo, Mars is going to AoE stun turn 1 because William has the high speed. So yeah, food for thought. Then of course William, he has a damage reduction alt with counter, and counter is a stupid mechanic to have with Red Yami at the beginning. Skill 2 increases the attack of basically all the main DPSs that you see here. Asta, Yami, Raya, and the other Yami are all attack supporters, or attackers, attack DPS, I guess. So he's going to be very good for the skill 2, which also increases speed. And then his skill 1 could stun. So very good alt, very good skill 2, and very good skill 1. Nothing really to complain about there. Now S, of course, Charlotte, I've already explained her, but still very good because of the mark. But the thing is, she would be S plus if it wasn't for Mars, who has debuff block for 1 turn, and usually you apply the skill 2 turn 1. But the problem with that is when you apply it, if you don't get the reduced defense, most of the time you won't be able to kill everyone. But if you apply the reduced defense and you apply the mark, and then you do your like quick team and you use Red Asta, you could kill everyone. But with Mars, if you can't apply that debuff of reduced defense, it's going to be much harder for Charlotte, but she's still very good because she could apply the mark. Red Yami is still insanely good in a Blue William combo, Blue William counter team comp, where he uses his ult, reduces damage taken, gives Red Yami a counter, and he has a an AoE skill 1. So Red Yami is going to counter like 10 times, kill everyone, and if you apply bleed, he has a stun on his skill 2, and he does a lot of damage on his ult. He's very good. The Lich and Riot together are going to be like pretty much the meta team for the most part. Like it's the team you're going to see the most, but Red Asta could still completely destroy them and is probably better than them. Like easily, if you're using a quick team with Red Asta, he could just kill Raya and just disable the whole team very easily, right? But these two are still very good, and the combo they have together does insane damage. So you basically have two combo AoEs turn, two like strong AoEs turn 1, Lich on his ult. Then Raya uses the combo of them together. Now Fauna does very good damage, right? That it's like for sure AoE damage is crazy, especially if you go from ult to skill 2. But definitely not enough to get to like meta, but definitely still really good. And you know, not a bad option. Same with Yami, but the main part that he's here for is because of his total silence. If you manage to get this off before another DPS, you could completely restrict them, unless it's Red Yami. For Red Yami, it doesn't really change much, but you could really restrict them. Then his skill 2 also is able to block HP recovery, which could like severely just neg Mimosa, which is just a really good thing to do. Moving down, Leopold in PvP is very good. And, you know, even in PvE, he could be A tier, sure. He has a single target ult that does insane damage. He has a burn, right, with AoE, well, semi-AoE burn. Really good overall. It's his lifesteal that's able to keep him up there so that he could self-support himself. Self-sustain, I guess I should say. So I really do think Leopold is decent, but definitely not on the level of those above. And Sally, amazing buffs. Even if Noelle isn't out yet, she's still very good in this tier list specifically. She's still very good to buff basically all of these guys, all of the DPSs that you see above. So yeah, Sally, amazing supporter. And then Fuego with Nozel, these two could be very good together. So yeah, you really cannot go wrong with these two together because of their combo, which I'm about to pull up after I scratch my eye. So if you see it here, the united attack for Fuego's part, I have to pull up Nozel's part too because they both have different things. So for Fuego's part, it's an AoE. So is the Nozel part. It's a 52% times 2, but then it's what, an extra 28. So 60, 80. It's a 160% alt because of the combo if you get it both to level 5. Now, Fuego's part is going to reduce endurance, and it's going to apply 3 stacks of burn if you land a crit. And then Nozel's part puts bluff block and then also incapacitate. Like, the amount of stuff that they put together in an AoE at such a high damage level for an AoE skill is insane, and the damage is just really good. So those two together are good, but Fuego is also pretty decent in terms of the damage he does even without. And then Nozel has very good debuffs that I think are kind of overlooked. But if you put Nozel with Charlotte, you could pretty much like nullify a person completely. Because he reduces magic attack, he reduces damage too, which is just really good. Like outright 34% less damage. So it's almost the same thing as reducing... Oh, it's the same thing technically as actually reducing damage. So yeah. Then we get into the wishy-washy parts that I'll go over some people. But Asta, the only reason he's here is AoE taunt. Mimosa could be lower, but still okay. Noelle has a barrier, AoE barrier with the increased defense, which is pretty good. Teresa is a healer. Vettel is still able to tank okay, and in some very few instances, he can clutch. Nebra has very good single target debuffs, which could make her so that she's able to able to like completely target someone. Now Rill 100% should be higher. Okay, Rill should be an A tier, which I already discussed with Antelar, so that's there. And same with Vanessa, she could be an A tier because of the buffs she applies in terms of stopping crits completely, increasing defense, and then giving a heal. It's just a very good combo. Yuno definitely doesn't do enough damage, which means you should be in B tier. Then Charmy is just like not that good in PvP. Same with Ghost. You would think his damage is higher, but it isn't. Jack needs to stack up too much because of course his ult is all about how many buffs he could get and if he could crit, but you need to stack up way too much for him to actually be good. Too much preparation time. Luck just doesn't do the damage. Soul is just like, you could single target taunt, but that's like her only use. Like she dies very quickly because she doesn't have much like defensive buffs for her compared to Mars, where you could increase his defense, reduce damage received, right? So stuff like that. Then Solid could do okay damage, but just not good enough. Then Magna, I mean, wow, look at that. He's all alone. He could stun, which is cool, I guess. Yeah, that's basically it. You could put Alokdora and Sharon a bit higher, but not really. Then Gifso, it's luck buffs, and that's only good in bosses. So definitely not too good. Man, I'm going to talk to Antelar about putting him up in PvE. But yeah, Heath, it's yikes. It's just a yikes. So yeah, that's basically the end of the tier list. Of course, remember, Rill and Vanessa should be an A tier because of what they do. And yeah, that's it for the global tier list on launch. I don't think the Season 1 units should be changing, but I can't 100% confirm that to you. But that's basically it. If you want to check out all the tier lists, all the characters, all the skill pages, see what units have the highest stats, go to Pridewin. I'll link it in the description. Thank you to Antelar for letting me help out with this. Of course, thank you also for shouting me out here, which I really do appreciate. Very cool that I got to work on a game site as big as this. People, I know Zeoxys, my friend, who covers Nikkei, and then obviously a bunch of Star Rail people. I watch Star Rail content, so also, you know, I've seen these two two like game communities use Pridewin a lot, especially for their tier lists. So being able to be a part of a tier list like this is like kind of huge to me. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one, and peace.